Hi, friends. I'm Gary.
And I'm Carla.
And we're so glad you've tuned in to Gutsy Faith today.
Yes, and on the show today, we're going to be having a relatable and real conversation about what it means to have faith, how to go deeper in your faith, and how you can practically apply your faith in your everyday life.
Yeah, and girl, there's no telling what might happen today, so get ready.
That's right, get ready and make sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest content. You can also subscribe to the Gutsy Faith Podcast on your favorite listening platform and make sure to follow along with us on social media for all the latest content.
We love you guys so much, and remember, we're cheering you wildly.
Let's check out today's show.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Gutsy Faith. We're so glad you're here with us today.
We're ready. We're going in. Part 2 of our relationship series.
We
are.
If
I can get my fingers Part 2, guys. No, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
We said this last episode. Doing series is not something we normally do, but we really felt like it would be amazing to offer a series on relationships.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we've been doing. Our first episode in this series was on you. Is that
you?
Like you.
You.
Yeah, because the first part of a relationship is you. You're that common denominator in all your relationships.
Yep.
And
if you've had 5 failed relationships, just is every guy crazy or?
Yeah, it's something we have to look at. And it was really fun to actually look at that last episode.
It helped me. It was great. There's
Me
so much
too.
truth in there.
Me too. And today we're talking about, get ready, dating.
Ooh.
We're talking about dating when you're
Okay.
actually trying to forge a relationship or you're really getting into a relationship.
Yeah.
So that's going to be great.
I
Don't
can't
you
wait.
think?
We're going to be discussing some do's and don'ts of relationships. And
Yeah.
if you are maybe married or single, don't tune this out because this is going to help you. Some of you guys may be married and your marriage is kind of struggling right now because you stopped doing what it took to get married after you got married. And some of y'all need to date your mate again. So this series is going to be helpful. And if you're single, we're going to just go through some really practical do's and don'ts of dating that we believe are going to help you in your relationships. You know, there's so much wisdom in the Bible about relationships. And in Proverbs, in chapter 24, starting in verse 3, it says that by wisdom, a house is built. So many people are lacking wisdom right now. Like, we just don't know what to do. And then it says, through understanding, it is established. So it's not enough just to build the house. You want it to be established. You want there to be a firm foundation upon which you're building. And then it says, through knowledge, the rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be diving into some wisdom, some understanding, and some knowledge so that you can really build those relationships the right way so that they last. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't ace a test that you haven't studied for, right?
Right.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Gare, without further ado, let's just jump in. What's the first don't? We're going to start with the don'ts. What's the first don't in dating?
Let's look at the first don't. So here it is.
Okay, I'm ready.
Don't just look for love. Don't just look for love. Everyone's like, I just want to fall in love. You know what? Love, the way we think of love, that kind of like puppy love, that infatuated love, that like, I think everything about him is perfect love.
Yeah.
Lasts about this long. It lasts about this long. And then you get into the mature finding of what love really is. So if you're just looking for love, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be let down because no one's going to actually be able to carry that through long term.
Right. That's so good. I was thinking, my dad, he loves like 80s music, old music. We're in the car, we're always listening to old songs. And there's this old song, it goes, I'm not going to sing the whole song because your girl, she ain't blessed with that ability. But it goes like, love will keep us together. And it's like, well, when you think about that, it really won't. Commitment will keep us together. Sacrifice will keep us together. Forgiveness will keep us together.
Yeah.
Those things will keep us together, but love, it may keep us together for a little bit, but we want to be in this thing for the long haul.
Right. Ooh, that's so good. And, I think it's interesting to look at how relationships start. Because, I talk about Bobby a lot, my man.
Your baseball
and
man.
My baseball man.
We love you,
and
Bobby.
We've been married a long time, as you know. And the thing is when we started dating, oh my gosh. I mean, we were so in love. It was ridiculous how in love
Did y'all
we
have
were.
a song?
We did. We had two. Stevie Wonder. It had to be Stevie. Bobby wrote out the words to me on a tablet and gave it to me in a white envelope. Oh, yeah. We had a couple of Stevie Wonder songs, but we were so in love with each other. And it was interesting because, when I think about how God prepared us for each other, we talked about it the last episode. It had to be him first and then each other.
Yeah.
But we started our relationship without the Lord. Okay.
Really?
We were not believers when we dated. Now, here's the weird thing about it. And many of you, maybe you can say this because you might be looking for a church guy because you want that church guy, to bring
We
those
love the church
values.
guys.
But Bobby and I were both going to church, but we were not believers.
Wow.
We were both raised in a particular denomination, and we have both gone to school for many years in that denomination. And so in college, we would go to church, but church hadn't come to us. Like we weren't living in the church.
Wow.
We were just going through the motions of that.
Yeah.
And I shared on a couple of our episodes, I believe, my story of how I came to know the Lord, through an eating disorder and this dramatic change in my life. I mean, Bobby started dating Gary version number 1. Then I come through this miraculous revelation of Jesus in my life. I mean, when I asked him to be Lord of my life, it was like,
Change everything.
Come on, it was like I was
0 to 100
wild woman
overnight.
for Jesus
Yeah.
immediately. And Bobby was in this time frame of his life where he was on the trajectory of a baseball star. He was about to be a first round draft pick player, and every media outlet, every TV outlet knew Bobby Meacham, and he was very popular in the press. And so he was dealing with that, and I'm dealing with this insane radical life change.
Wow.
And so we kind of put it on hold that all this had happened. I came to know the Lord in April. He got drafted in June, and we separated. He played his first year of pro ball. I was home for the summer working. And what happened when we came back together after his first season of pro ball and my new year of school started, my senior year of college, we were absolutely on two different polar opposites of the spectrum. I mean, what worked in our relationship before, I'm talking about physical things. What worked in our relationship before, things that were like okay that we used to do were suddenly not okay.
Yeah.
To me, to him, he was like, well, who are you? What's going on? I thought this God thing was just gonna wear itself out, or it was just a sidebar.
Just a phase,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting to a point here. I will never forget. We were in Disneyland of all places. It's supposed to be the happiest place on earth.
Right.
We're in Disneyland, and we're dating, and we're kind of trying to work through these crazy issues that are new in our life. My relationship with Christ. Bobby basically realized, and we found this out in Disneyland. We were sitting on a bench, and I confronted him on a certain topic that was biblical. I confronted him on it, and I said, do you believe this? And he hemmed and hawed, and he gave me an answer that I knew totally showed me that he was not walking with the Lord.
Yeah.
And just overcome with sadness, I broke up with him on a bench in the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. We're both bawling.
Became the saddest place on earth.
We're like, well, we can't stay here and go on rides. Like, what do we do? And so we get in the car. We're bawling our eyes out because I knew he's faking it for me. Listen, friends, if you're in a relationship and either you're faking it or he's faking it, and you're moving with the Lord, and you know this guy that you're with is not on pace that you are with the Lord. You need to think about that. You know, love, or what you thought was love, is not always enough to propel a powerful, godly relationship forward. Let me just end that story about Disneyland. Carla, we were broken up for only 4 hours. 4 hours. 4 hours. Because on the way home from Disneyland, Bobby pulls into a park. We get out. We're sitting on top of a picnic bench on the table of it. We're just sitting there.
Yeah.
We're bawling. And he's like, I have to make Jesus number one.
Wow.
Jesus has to be number one. I cannot fake this for you. I can't do this for you. This has to be for me. And he confessed some things within that year. He confessed some things to me. And it was really the start of our relationship being completely submitted to Jesus. Now, I'm not saying it was easy from that point on or perfect, but that was the beginning point. We had to realize love isn't enough. Love isn't enough. We got to think through these things.
Yeah.
And we have to be mature about it.
That's so good. You're right. In the long haul, love isn't enough. And I love that story because it has such a happy ending. He really realized, hey, there's some things I got to figure out. But I think for a lot of us, we end up linking ourselves with somebody that's not on our level, either primarily spiritually, like we're here and maybe they're here, or vice versa. And eventually we have to realize we can't date somebody that we're not compatible with. And that's our second point, is don't date somebody that you're not compatible with. This is biblical and it's practical. This is what the scripture says. In 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 19, it says, do not be yoked together with unbelievers. It says, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? For what fellowship can light have with darkness? What does this mean? This is saying, hey, you need to be compatible. The people that you're doing life with, specifically your spouse, y'all need to be on the same level, going in the same direction. In fact, here, Garrett, give me your, we didn't talk about this, so I'm gonna show you. Give me your hand.
Okay.
If we link up in a relationship, right? So this is a relationship, we've tied it together, we're moving forward, and we're going this way, right? If we're walking forward, we're good. Like I'm helping you, you're helping me. But if I'm headed this way and Gary is headed this way, what's gonna happen?
It's a pull.
It's tension, it's friction, and eventually it's not gonna work. I'm gonna hurt myself and I'm gonna hurt you in the process.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is so important that whenever we're in a dating relationship, that we really date somebody that we're compatible with. And that scripture, that we referenced, it's got that word yolk in it, which I know you might be thinking, well, are we talking about egg yolks here? Are we making an omelet? What is happening? That was actually a biblical agricultural term for something that people used in that society. And Garrett, I love when you dive in. I love when you dive into context. Give us some context on what that actually means.
Right. Well, a yoke was actually a big wooden harness. And typically it would go on top of oxes. But did you know that sometimes it went on people? It went on people. And it would connect people together so they could do a task easier. So often for humans, it would be a big wooden apparatus behind your neck. And then you could hang buckets on it. You could pull weight behind you. But the issue was you had to go together. If you tried to veer off in a direction, the yoke would fall, or it would literally almost strangle you. It would be so heavy on your neck. And Jesus, he has that famous scripture where he says, my yoke is easy. My load is light. Jesus talks about us yoking ourselves to him. And that's a light load. But you know why? Because he carries it. He carries it. We're with him, but the bulk of that load is on him. And that's why in a relationship, I think it's brilliant that Paul said that, the Apostle Paul, don't be yoked to a non-believer, because you're gonna end up pulling. This friction's gonna get you in the end.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So, practically, if we really take that scripture and look at it, in our world today. What does this mean? It means if you're a Christian, you're a woman of God, you're saved, you're following after Jesus, and maybe the guy that you're with right now is just kind of doing his own thing. Can I tell you something? Ladies, you're not Jesus. You can't save him. You can't change him. Bobby, when y'all had that conversation, Bobby had to make the decision, I'm going to change. I need to change. You couldn't change him.
Right.
He had to make the decision. Or guys, if you're a man of God, you're a man of integrity and character and honor, and you're dating a girl right now that is just tearing you down with her words, that's negative, she's killing your confidence, it's not gonna work. You need to link yourself up with somebody that is going in the same direction as you're going. And really, that's where oftentimes communicating expectations in a relationship is so important.
So true.
I think so often people come into a relationship with different expectations. They haven't communicated those expectations. Like, hey, this is the vision for my life. This is what I want my marriage one day to look like. What is your vision? What does that look like? And when you guys really begin to communicate that with each other, you can see, okay, yeah, we're lining up, or
right.
Not really. You know,
it really comes down to that word expectations, because everybody's bringing certain expectations into a relationship.
Yep.
You know, and whether we know it or not, sometimes it's what we watched, sometimes it's what we've dreamed we want in a relationship. But we're
even how we
bringing
grew
those
up.
in. Oh, totally. What we watched it in parents or in relatives. You know, I know when I married Bobby, I was just like, okay, Prince, my Prince Charming, you take me away from this. And Carla, I'm embarrassed to say, but I left college. I was not done with college. I was like, I was in my senior year, but I'm like, bye-bye. I don't need to finish this out. You know,
I got a man now.
I got
I'm
my
good.
man. We've got this life in pro ball, but I had certain expectations about pro ball and what it was going to be like. Girl, we had our wedding date and we did not go on a honeymoon because baseball called Bobby back. We had to go to what's called instructional league 2 days after we were married.
Wow.
We were in a car driving. We lived in an apartment above a garage. I think I've mentioned it on the show before. This was the beginning of our marriage. And I was like, this is not what I thought this was going to be like. And had I known that the first 10 years of our life, we were going to move 47 times, I'm not kidding. That's the exact number, 47 times. Had I known how stressful it would be to try to, keep your job and keep your position, and everyone's vying to pull you down, and your marriage is threatened at all angles. Had I known that, I just had this picture like, we're not going to have financial struggles. He's the love of my life.
Right.
We are in love with the Lord.
For richer or poorer, but we're going to be richer.
It's gonna be
we're never going to have to be poor.
Yeah, exactly.
Sickness and health. We're always going to be healthy. There's a reason. There's both. Life has both.
And it's funny because his expectations were a little different than mine, but the great thing I do love about Bobby is he wasn't pushy with that. I've seen many men that are pushy with their expectations. They expect a meal on the table. Well, guess what? You married someone who hates cooking. Like, I'm not a good cook. I admit it. I can do it. I don't love it. There were certain expectations that
That's so good.
we figured out, but that's part of it. You will always fail at meeting expectations if you don't have those expectations laid out and understand what's expected. Yeah.
That is so, so good. I definitely struggle with that in terms of really communicating those expectations, but it's so important because at the end of the day, whenever you're in a dating relationship, this is probably one of my biggest struggles. You can't just date potential. You have to date purpose.
That's so good.
What does that mean? We just talked about it in part 1 of this relationship series. Number 1, when you're working on you, is you have to discover your purpose. But secondly, when you're dating somebody, you need to make sure that they've discovered their purpose. Because if you're just maybe looking at potential of what could be, that's great. But what are they doing with what they have now?
Yeah.
You know, I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, which is a helper, if you guys are familiar with the Enneagram at all. And as a helper, we have great qualities. We love to help people, whatever. But those great qualities also have a shadow side. And when it comes to relationships, while it's great that I love to help people in life and that sort of thing, you have to be really careful in a relationship, because if not, you will try to fix that person or try to save that person or try to help them develop that potential into purpose. But that's a really dangerous place, because they have to make that choice for themselves to walk into that purpose.
Yeah.
It can't just, everybody's got potential, right? In fact, actually, whenever you hear somebody say that, oh, you got so much potential. Like, honestly, it's kind of a bad thing, right? It's like, but really what they're saying is, hey, you could do a lot, but you're doing nothing with what you have right now.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to, again, the goal of dating is eventually marriage. And when you marry somebody, when you're going to do life with somebody forever is a long time. You can't just link up with somebody that, oh, they might balance their finances well, or they might find God, or, oh, they might be faithful, they might be committed. They got to be committed now.
Yeah.
They got to be faithful now. We have to veer away from just dating potential. We have to date purpose.
Right. Ooh, that is so wise. That's so good. And so when we think about how to actually make that a do, so what do we do?
Let's jump into the do's.
Yeah, one of the things I like to think about in that is really that you need to consider before you commit. All right, you need to consider before you commit. Think about it. Dating, in some ways, it's going to sound weird, but in some ways is evaluating, right? I mean, until you...
It's a test. You're testing that person.
Well, you are.
Honestly.
You're testing each other. You're evaluating. Is this right?
Do you know Jesus? No. Wrong answer. Do you like coffee? No. Wrong answer. Okay, sorry, I'm going off. That's my evaluation.
I just thought of this. My daughter, Allie, was talking about a date she went on years ago. Yeah. And she said within the first 5 minutes, she had just bulleted the guy with like, blah, 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 blah. And she knew in 5 minutes, she's like, I'm done. He's not for me. And he goes, why do I just feel like I went through a test? And, she goes, now, in the future, I learned, don't make it feel like a test. But in a sense, it is an evaluating period. Listen, until you say I do, you still have the chance to say I shouldn't.
That's
okay.
Great.
You still have that chance. You're not pushed into or forced into something. You need to actually really, really think about this and understand that you're still evaluating. It's okay.
It's
okay.
So good.
Yeah. And, I think, Carla, I have a journalistic background. I think perhaps you do too. And I really have always been the type to ask a lot of questions. But asking good questions is an art. If you can ask people good questions, then you're not telling them so much. You're not telling them what you want them to be or how you want them to think, but you're probing. Jesus was brilliant at asking questions. He knew exactly how to ask the right question, even though he already knew the answers. He was brilliant at asking. Yeah. And I think that when you're dating, ask a lot of probing questions, not like harshly. I'm just saying in an inviting way. Yeah. So tell me more about that.
Right.
Well, what do you think about that? Or how did that make you feel in that situation? Those kind of things, it invites somebody to actually express themselves. And then you can really get to know that person better in that way.
Absolutely. That's so good. And we're not saying, if this is your first time having coffee with them, you don't have to give them a sheet, a fill-in-the-blank sheet, with all these questions. But if you're really looking at pursuing a committed relationship with this person, you do need to ask them questions. What was life like growing up for you? How were your parents? What was their relationship like? How is your relationship like with your dad?
Yeah.
How much debt do you have? What's your credit score? Have you committed a felony? These questions really, they're helpful because you really get to know the real them, not what you're projecting onto them, not what you want them to be, but who they really are.
Another thing on that too that I think is so wise, and I tell young women in baseball this, try to go through at least a year with somebody. Go through the seasons.
Yeah.
See how they are during the holidays. Holidays can show a lot about somebody and how they interact with their family or what buttons that pushes if they don't have a family.
Yeah.
In baseball, we always say, go through a full season with someone. See their ups and downs, their moods, throughout a work year. You need to spend some actual time with somebody. And in that environment, I see a lot of long distance relationships, especially in pro ball. And then you marry that person and you're together for the first time through for instance, a baseball season or whatever it might be. And you're like, oh my gosh, it was so much easier texting or on the phone. No, you need to actually live in the same city, in the same town, not under the same roof, people, but like you need
same
to live.
City.
Yeah.
Not same house.
In the proximity.
Yes.
But you need to actually do that so that you can see someone through all the seasons.
And I love that you said that word seasons because that's exactly in relationships. There's seasons. Just like there's 4 seasons in Houston where we live, there's really only 2. A little bit of winter and a whole bunch of summer. But in a relationship, you've got spring. There's going to be those butterflies, those fun seasons, and there's going to be the summer seasons, super hot, spicy, caliente.
Woo!
There's going to be fall, which gets a little chilly. There's winter, which is brutal.
Yeah.
And the longer that you're with somebody, the more that you can begin to see how they react and respond in those situations.
Right.
And really, I think the second thing that we have to do is we have to look for character, not just chemistry.
Yeah.
Because in those spring and summer seasons, there is so much chemistry. But it's really in the fall and the winter that we begin to see what their real character is like. And at the end of the day, when we're all old, when we all have wrinkles, that 6-pack ain't gonna be there anymore. I love that it's there right now. Love it. But when we're 90, I want more than just a 6-pack.
Yeah.
I want a man of character. I want men that are watching. I want you to be with a woman with character and with honor and with integrity. So we really can't just rely on this feeling of love or chemistry because, studies have been shown that when you're in that in love phase, there are chemicals that are released in the pleasure and reward centers of our brain. So like dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, all of these chemicals are being released into our brain. You've felt it before. There's bodily and there's neurological effects to that chemical release. Think about it. Your hands get sweaty.
Right.
Your heart starts pounding. You get those butterflies.
Yeah.
Those are physical reactions to the chemical reactions that are happening in your body when you're in this in love phase. And neurologically, it actually has a lot of kind of negative impacts. Your ability to perceive certain things, your judgment gets clouded. Studies show that you actually begin to engage in addictive-like behavior. Think about it. When you first meet somebody, you're on the phone with them every day, multiple times a day, multiple hours a day. I just can't get enough of you. I want to be with you all the time. I want to do everything with you. You're addicted.
Right.
You're addicted.
Truly.
And once that in-love feeling begins to wear off, which social psychologists say it's anywhere between 6 weeks to 18 months.
Whoa, that's soon. Wow.
That 6 weeks to 18 months, so you can be 2 years in and still not really be able to perceive everything that's going on. And that's where it's so important not to just look for chemistry. Yes, there needs to be chemistry there. You need to be attracted to them.
Of course.
You do have to look at them for the rest of your life. But more than that, at the core, at the foundation, look for character more than you look for chemistry.
Yeah. Ooh, that's so good. That's so good. And, friends, as we just kind of wrap this, I just want to say, because I know there's so many people listening, and Carla, we ourselves have experienced heartbreak. And, I said to Bobby once, early on in our marriage, I said, have you ever had your heart broken? And he said, no. He was usually the heartbreaker.
Wow.
He was the one that all the girls loved. They liked him. And then he would break their hearts. And I was explaining to him, he later had his heart broken, in our marriage. And it was from himself. He broke his own heart. But
we'll talk more about that.
We'll talk more about that next episode. But I was explaining to him what it feels like to have a broken heart. I had one really, really bad right before Bobby. The guy I dated before Bobby, I thought about using his real name, but I don't know if he's watching.
He might be a part of our Gutsy Faith fam, so let's keep it anonymous.
So I'm gonna call him Mark Weber.
Mark Weber.
Okay, I'm gonna call him Mark Weber. So Mark Weber and I started dating the very end of high school and our freshman into our sophomore year of college. Actually, the end of our freshman year of college. So end of high school to end of freshman year of college. And he was so charming. I mean, this guy was like handsome and charming, and he kind of wore me down. I didn't like him at first. We were good friends, and he was really a go-getter, and I really liked that about him. And he wore me down to where I finally agreed to go out with him. And then we just kind of got hot and furious, like we talked about, that chemistry.
Caliente.
That got hot and furious. And, it was freshman year of college. We were vulnerable. We were both in new environments. And, we just kind of clung to each other. We went to the same school. And, and so I totally see why it happened the way it did. But let me tell you, he dumped me the end of freshman year. It crushed me. He started dating this other girl, Cynthia. And
that's a code name. That's a code.
Cynthia.
Not her real name.
She
in case you're watching.
Was like, actually, I really like her now. Like, we ended up connecting later in life, and I'm like, she's fantastic. No. But Cynthia, he dumped me for her. Now, mind you, I had to look at Cynthia day in, day out. She was a residential assistant, or whatever you call it, in the dorm next to mine. Oh, please. I've got to see Cynthia, everybody loves Cynthia. She had the best personality. She was darling. It was a nightmare. Not to mention this, what did I call him? Mark Weber? Mark Weber.
Don't give the real name.
Mark Weber. So let me tell you, he was the type that, like, have you ever seen a child that has a toy and they get to where they don't want to play with the toy, but they don't want anyone else to play with the toy? So he dumped me, broke my heart, but would still call me, still string me on. And all he had to say is, Gare, you want to go for a walk? Yes. Gare, can you meet me? Da-da-da. Yes. I mean, because I always thought maybe there's a chance still with Mark Weber. Well, finally, I decided at one point,
God bless you, Mark Weber.
Mark Weber, fictional.
If your name is Mark Weber, I'm so sorry.
Me too. I decided I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this university. I mean, literally. And friends, this might be a word to somebody.
Yes.
I didn't even plan on saying this. But like, if you are constantly surrounded with the reminders of somebody or something that broke your heart or took you down, you might need to change your environment.
Yes.
A couple of my girlfriends, we all decided our junior year, we were going to transfer to San Diego State University. I was at Colorado State at the time. So we eventually all transferred. Thank the Lord. But do you know, even after I was dating Bobby Meacham, I was getting calls periodically from Mark Weber.
Wow.
And he said even this very line to me, if you were here, would you date me? Do you see how manipulative that was? He was still trying to hold on to me, even though he didn't want me. He's with Cynthia. He ended up marrying Cynthia. But guess what? Their marriage ended up in divorce because he did the same thing to her that he had done to me. found somebody that looked better, different. And here's the kicker to this story. This is the fun part of it.
Oh my gosh.
So Bobby is finally able to go back with me to one of my high school reunions. He would always miss them because pro ball season was always when we would have these high school reunions. Bobby comes to our 20-year high school reunion with me. We walk in, he's like, where is this Mark Weber I've been hearing about all these years?
And Bobby is the sweetest.
And Bobby's a stud. Like, he still looks good. Even at I can say that. Doesn't he look good, Carla?
He's great. He's great.
He's really handsome. If I do say so myself, I think. So we walk in and Bobby's looking so good. And he's like, where's this Mark Weber? Mark Weber was sitting up like at a table area with some other guys. And Bobby goes, that cannot possibly be him. Listen.
Oh no.
Mark Weber used to be cute back in the day, but Mark Weber walked up to us short, bald, and had braces. Oh, yes, he did. Short, bald, and had braces.
Gravity it happened.
Bobby
Can't
was
fight
like,
it, baby.
I've been worried about this guy all this time. And I'm like, babe, I'm just so happy that God had the plan he had. Listen, I swooned over this guy. We had thought we were going to get married, me and this Mark Weber. Yeah. Like, some of the mistakes or the things that you prayed for that God divert you from are the best things of your life. Trust me, heartbreak is not the end.
No.
Heartbreak can lead to your real future. Yeah. So lean into it. Let the Lord into it. But don't think that your heartbreak is the end of your story.
No.
It's probably the beginning to your right story.
Absolutely. And Gary, I really think there may be somebody that's watching and you related to Gary's story. I know I've been there before where you almost feel like you're a yo-yo. Like right as you begin to create distance, it's like you're just sucked back into this relationship and you know it's not healthy. You know God's got better. You know there's more ahead, but you still have that tie. And I think maybe today, there's some people watching that they need to cut that string. They need to cut that tie. Whatever that looks like, super practical. Maybe that means deleting some pictures that you keep scrolling to, or maybe unfollowing them on social media, not from a mean place, but I can't have that in my life. If I'm gonna move forward in the future and the hope and the healing and the wholeness that God is calling me to, I can't be tied to this past pain. It's gonna hold me back from moving forward. And so we just really wanna encourage you, no matter what pain you may have experienced in those relationships, no matter how somebody might have taken your heart and trampled on it and broken it, you are never too broken to be healed by Almighty God.
Right.
That's what he does. He specializes in that. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, it says that anyone who is in Christ is a new creation. Behold, old things are gone. The new is here. All things, all mistakes, all past pain, all brokenness, it's made new in him. And so today we just want to encourage you to give your heartbreak to the healer. Give your heart back to Jesus. Maybe wherever you're at, just say, God, I give you this. I don't want to carry this anymore. I don't want to live in this state of not feeling good enough or feeling ashamed or feeling like even hopeless. Like I can't walk forward in health and healing and hope in my relationships. Friends, God is so faithful. And when we really commit to doing relationships his way, there is such a blessing that comes from that. And we always say it here, but we're cheering you wildly. We're cheering you in your life, in your relationships. We can't wait to hear how God is moving in your life. If this episode was helpful to you, send us a message. Let us know how God's moving in your life. Follow us. We're on all social media platforms. We want to do this journey of faith with you. We want to do life with you. So let us know how God's moving in your life. We are cheering you wildly this week. We love you so much. Friends, thank you so much for tuning in today. We really hope the message was an encouragement to you and to your faith.
And if it was, share it with a friend. Give it a thumbs up or leave a comment. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for the latest exclusive content.
Yes, and if you want to be a part of what God is doing through Gutsy Faith, you can learn more on our website. Subscribe to the Gutsy Faith Podcast on any listening platform, Apple, Spotify, Google, all the things. And make sure to give us a follow on social media. Gare, I don't know about you, but I love that we get to be on this journey of faith with each other.
Oh.
It's such a community. I love it.
It's amazing. Friends, we will see you next time.
See you next time.